So you're a new software business owner and your app is on fire. You're starting to get new users, you're gaining momentum, and you probably feel like the dog who caught the ice cream truck and doesn't know what to do with it. But as you get ready to scale up, let me ask you this question. Have you thought about the security of your app? Now, you might be thinking, well, I outsource everything. My payment transactions are done through Stripe, and I have a third party for my identity checker. And you know what? I even hired an agency to vibe code my app, so it should be fine, right? Well, here's the reality. A report by Verizon found that 20% of initial breaches were caused by software vulnerabilities. And what about the secrets? Where are they stored? Well, GitGuardian found that 70% of secrets that were left in plain view for source code are still usable 2 years later. And what about your third-party packages that you use in your code? Well, Sonatype found that 80% of these third-party packages haven't been updated in over a year, which is why things like Log4j are still biting teams. So the security of your app isn't just about outsourcing things. You have to be worried about the security of the code that you are responsible for. Now, a cybersecurity salesman would happily sell you a solution for tens of thousands of dollars to solve this problem. But today I'm going to give you a framework and show you some open source tools that can get you started for free. But by following this framework, it's going to set up a solid foundation for your future. So let's say you want to become SOC 2 compliant so you can get that awesome partnership. Well, you'll already have your security practices in place. Get into it. Okay, so here I've got a pretty simplified software development lifecycle. This is SDLC. So how does this usually work? Well, usually the business folks or a product manager is going to come through and they're going to design a list of requirements for a new product or feature. And then they're going to feed those to the development team. And the development team is going to both push and pull code from a source code repository. This is usually like GitHub or GitLab, Azure DevOps, etc. And once they push the code to certain branches of this source control repository, it usually is going to trigger some type of CI/CD tooling. So what is this in the real world? Usually Jenkins or GitHub Actions. And all this tool is doing is it is going to build the code, it's going to run some tests, and then it's going to deploy the code either to your production environment or depending on branches or how you have it working, it might be some sort of pre-production environment. And these environments could be on-prem, excuse my handwriting, or, this might be in the cloud, who knows where it is, but it's eventually where your code is running and users are interacting with your code, be it test users or real users. So how do we plug security into this? The first thing I want to talk about security-wise is shift left. What does shift left security mean? Well, in this software development lifecycle, the faster we can find vulnerabilities on this side, the cheaper it's going to be. So you can think of here, if we can design the application securely, that costs us almost nothing. Whereas if you find bugs, especially critical bugs in production environment, that's going to cost you a lot of money to fix that. So the most effective security tool that we can use in your software development lifecycle is threat modeling. What is threat modeling? Well, all it is you get a security professional that is involved in the design phase. They're going to look at the design from an attacker's perspective, and they're going to think, how would an attacker abuse this application? So now we can pass security requirements to the development teams, and security can get baked in from the start. Now, security professionals, they are kind of expensive. I recommend two approaches, especially if you're a small company. First, contract this out. So if you just hire someone for a couple hours to do some threat modeling and give you a report, that's going to be a lot cheaper than hiring a full-time security person to come onto your team. Eventually, you'll probably want that, but not really off the bat. Okay, another thing is, so my other suggestion is use LLMs to threat model your application. They have a lot of security knowledge baked into them, or they can search for security knowledge. So one thing that you could potentially do, now you have to be careful, but you could upload design documents, you could talk to it about your application, and just ask it, what threats should I prevent? What are some of my security requirements? And I think these LLMs can actually do a pretty good job to get you 80-90% of the way there. So LLMs, hire a threat modeler, get those design requirements in soon. So what does SendGrep do? SendGrep is going to analyze the code generally before it's built. So this is you can think of this like a code analyzer, and it's going to give you security feedback pretty early on in this cycle. Now, one thing to realize is SemGrep, this security code analyzer, this is going to worry about the code that you or your agency writes. It's not going to tell you about the third-party libraries that you import. You could be importing vulnerable libraries into your code base, and SemGrep will not catch it. That's why you need another tool called a software composition analysis, which is a fancy term for saying it looks at these open source packages and it tells you which ones are vulnerable. Now, an open source and free version of this is OWASP dependency check. And so you can think about OWASP dependency check as a third-party library analyzer. And this will tell you if there's any libraries in your code that have significant vulnerabilities. Those of you who might remember Log4j, that was a third-party library vulnerability. So these two, we are going to plug into two places. Number one, our CI/CD tooling. In fact, let me do this. So these two tools, we're going to plug in and run them in CI/CD. So we're going to train our developers to use SemGrep locally on their machines, and maybe even OWASP dependency check too. This one, it does have some pretty significant memory requirements. Grep does not. So that way, when the developers are developing, they're going to catch these vulnerabilities early in their code, and they don't have to wait until they get feedback from the CI/CD tool to fix the vulnerabilities. Now, one special thing we're going to do here in the CI/CD tooling is we are going to put a gate here. So what does this mean? If these tools detect a critical or high vulnerability, we are going to break the build. So we're going to say critical or high vulns, we're going to break the build. And we are not going to allow that code to go into production or even pre-production until the developers fix those vulnerabilities. Some organizations will allow it in pre-production, at least so the developers can put the vulnerability in their backlog, but we definitely don't want to allow those certain vulnerabilities in the production environment. Okay, so that is kind of the heart of development security, as tools like this. Now, there's a couple more things I want to talk about, and this is about the security of your running code. So I want to introduce to you OWASP ZAP. So what is OWASP ZAP? OWASP ZAP is a security scanner, and you can think of it like a light pen test on your running application. This is a great way to start to secure your code, but at some point you are going to need to pay for a penetration test. So what is this? This is a security professional that comes in with their tools, and they are going to look at the logic of your application, and they're going to try to find any vulnerabilities that might be showstoppers for your application. While this one might not exactly be free, you can go to places like Upwork, where there are security professionals who will pen test your application and give you some meaningful feedback for a relatively low cost to start. Now, at Atlantium AI, we offer help with all of these services. If it comes to how do I install these free tools, or if you need help threat modeling an AI application or even just a normal application, or if you need help implementing OWASP ZAP to test your application on some frequency, or if you need help getting connected with a penetration tester, feel free to reach out. We would be happy to help you do this. So now, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and there are several pros to using open source software, but there's also some drawbacks too. I think that the biggest pro of using this is getting the habits in your organization early and laying the foundation of a secure software development lifecycle. This guy right here. But what are the cons? Well, you're generally going to be relying on community support, and it's up to you and your development team to fix these tools if they break. Additionally, with these open source tools, there's not really a great way to get all of your vulnerabilities in one place to manage. You know, the vulnerabilities for the static code analyzer are going to live where the static code analyzer is. The vulnerabilities for OWASP ZAP are going to live in OWASP ZAP. And there's no centralized place to kind of manage all of these. Something that when you start upgrading to more enterprise grade tools, they do start to have consoles where you can manage all your vulnerabilities in one place. Now, that is a drawback, but I think for getting started, something like these open source tools are perfect for small to medium-sized companies. And there you have it. I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and if you need any help along the way to your secure software development lifecycle, please reach out to us at atlantiumai.io. and I will link that in the description. Although security sounds really scary, it really doesn't have to be. Please feel free to check out the website. I've got other resources there, including free training videos, blog articles that can help you on your journey, and that's where my contact form is. So I hope to be able to speak with you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.